Henry Ford was really the first hot rodder. His motto was win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Even then, the logic was if a car could be a winner on the track, it could be a winner to the everyday buyer. In the 1960s, Detroit finally put it all together and introduced a series of sporty, high-performance street machines, the muscle cars. In the golden age of hot rodding, teens raced their cars at night on back roads, listening to Buddy Holly on the radio. With the development of factory-built muscle cars, Detroit really plugged into that hot rodding tradition.
If your car wins on Sunday, they're going to sell cars on Monday.
On any given day, a buyer could choose from dozens of cars with dozens of colors, styles, designs, and options. Greater than the number of atoms in the universe is how a Yale professor described the choices open to car buyers. In 1965, Chevrolet had 46 models, 32 engines, 20 transmissions, 21 colors, and more than 400 accessories and options.
I don't know whether to pick a color that goes with my present clothes or to buy a whole new wardrobe to go with the car.
Isn't there such a thing as a neutral color?
They were very susceptible to this narrow marketing that emphasized cars by their animal names and by their aggressive names. And the ads actually would say to people, buy this B-52 Buick, it's like having your own nuclear deterrent. The emphasis of aggression, speed, style, power, was dominant in the way motorists began to perceive cars. Remember, you had cars that were almost given animistic qualities. When Ford began to sell its Mustang, 35,000 Mustangs were sold before the Mustang got into the showroom, just on the pre-publicity. And I'll never forget, a woman in Tennessee was asked, why did you buy a Mustang before you even saw it in the showroom? And she responded, Mustang, Mustang, Mustang. I mean, she wanted a horse, in effect, an automotive horse, and it worked.
There were a young group of engineers, the Bunky Knutsons, the Ed Coles, Don Fry at Ford, that realized young people were the future buyers of the automobiles, and they realized that they were interested in drag racing. They were interested in stock car racing.
Mustang.
If you get youngsters interested in cars, then you might create a lifelong brand loyalty.
Mustang.
This is a car that was obviously designed for people in their teens and early 20s. It wasn't designed to look like an affluent car. It wasn't designed to look like a Cadillac, which so many of the cars have been made to look like. It's for the people who wanted to aspire to be 40 years old and rich, the Cadillac was great. This was a car that was fast, that was not too expensive, or didn't seem too expensive at the time, and it looked like it was moving even when it wasn't. And so it was perfect when you're like a teenager. I mean, that's the ideal car. You can go forever, you can go fast, it will attract women, it will do all these great things.
Take the pledge. Pauline felt trapped in a gilded cage until she flew to take the Mustang pledge. Take the pledge. 3 new ways to take the Mustang pledge. Her choice, the Mustang hardtop, which is hard to top.
The Mustang was introduced mid-year in April of 1964. It was one of the most sensational automobile introductions in modern times.
A 390 cubic inch V8 option for action. Choose a select shift that's automatic or manual. And Mustang speeds her on a high-flying ride to romance. Take the pledge! Take the Mustang pledge. No telling where it will lead. You're ahead in a Ford all the way.
The planning was done in secret because of the failure of the Edsel. The Ford management was very nervous about introducing another car that could be another failure, possibly. So they were nervous about another new project. And the only way I could work on this was to do it at home. And so at night I worked on my porch and designed Mustangs. And the final design that was chosen was one that I did at home on my porch. We didn't do a lot of market research back then. We did this car by gut feel. It's sort of, we think it's going to happen, and we did it. This car had excitement all around it. It had things on it. From the front, the side, the rear, it had enough sportiness and enough formality that it just answered everybody's question of I have to have one. It was the thing to be driving at that time, was a new Mustang.
Iacocca said, "It was the first thing we did for the kids." It's his words. We did it for the kids. Sales of the car in 1965, when it came out, 550,000 units. 550,000 units.
It put Lee Iacocca on the cover of Time magazine, and with the help of ex-racer and master promoter Californian Carroll Shelby, Ford was now in the muscle car business.
The Mustang wasn't really a muscle car. It came out as a six-cylinder. It didn't even have a V8. It was for something that was to come out at a price that was sporty, that these young people that went to the races and read about the European sport cars coming over here. They were very expensive compared with the cars that in this country at the time. And the Mustang came out for $2,300 with a brilliant marketing job pushed by Iacocca, and it took off just like that. Iacocca called me one day. The idiots that worked at Ford had gone to the Sport Car Club of America. They wanted to make it a sport car, and says, "We've got this new sport car, and we want you to homologate it so that we can go out and compete in the sport car races." And John Bishop, that was head of the Sport Car Club, says, "You don't have a sport car. You've got a little niche car that doesn't have suspension built for racing. It doesn't have brakes built for racing. There's a lot of things that keep it from being a racer." And when they came back and told Iacocca that, he called me and he says, "What do we have to do to make the Mustang a sport car?" I said, "I don't know, but I'll find out." So I called John Bishop and I said, "John, what do we have to do to make the Mustang a sport car?" He says, "Why don't we just put some larger brakes on the front of it? Why don't we put a 350 horsepower engine in it? Why don't we change the suspension, change the shock absorbers, make a two-seater out of it instead of a four-seater?" You know, they had a little seat in the back, but nobody could sit in it except two kids without any legs. And so he gave me a list of about 10 things to do, and I really didn't want to build a Mustang as a sport car. I was interested in the Cobras. I had another Cobra that I wanted to build, and I had my plans to keep on building Cobras. But when you're involved with a manufacturer that's putting up a lot of your capital, you have to listen. So when Lee said that he'd like for me to do that, I popped to attention, and we built the first one in about 45 days. And they would send stylists out, and we would be a year ahead of what they wanted to build. They would take a lot of the things that we put in the Shelby Mustang and put it in the next year's Mustang.
Ford takes over the town.
Ford, it's the going thing.
Mustang, the hottest going thing, is the car that made all America young. Mustang Mach 1, built for the big hurry with Cobra jet. Racier, sportier, success on parade. Mustang, the going thing.
Ford, it's a better idea. It's the going thing, yeah!
General Motors and Chrysler emulated it back as early as 66 and 7 and 8. They started following along and doing that. That's where the Camaro came from, where all the Super Bs and all that, Chrysler came along to compete with what we had originated and what we had started.